Welcome to Books, Booze, and Murder. I'm Anna.
I'm Alexa.
And we're two besties who love to read and, like many, have a fascination with true crime. You know, we haven't recorded in a while when we have a massive amount of tech problems.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been here for an hour and we've been fighting with it for an hour. The entire hour.
Well, I really think that the computer program I use for recording had an update. And I've been so busy with, like, sickness and with a bunch of side projects on top of work that I was stupid and didn't exactly check in on it.
Also, doesn't help that, like, we've never recorded in the morning and neither of us function well before coffee.
Yeah, true. But we're trying to keep in mind the fact that our setup is not the best, but we are also just starting and there is room for improvement. And someday we'll have a nice setup where we don't have to give a fuck about weather.
Yes, please. But no.
But how have you been?
Busy, man. Ew, there's a fly in here. Aki. If that's any distinction of how I'm doing, that's kind of mostly accurate there.
Well, since we last recorded, you had track season, right? It was really short.
So, here's the nice thing about track season, especially coaching modified track. It runs from about 2 weeks before spring break, 2 weeks off of spring break, and then we go right into the season. I have 5 meets, 5 Fridays, and then I'm done.
There you go.
So
insanity galore.
It's kind of craziness for a hot second. And then I'm done. Yeah. Which is really nice. And if it's nice like it was at the end of this track season this year, I can have fun practice.
There you go.
So I did a slip and slide and we had ice cream and popsicles and we did a short river run, and it's really nice and heartwarming to see middle schoolers playing in the water like they're kids again.
And there's not enough of that in this world anymore, of kids just being kids.
No.
Oh, that's so much fun.
It was so much fun. We had a great time with it. It was A+.
And I know
A+ end of the track season.
Yeah, and I know you've been busy, but did you read any good books since the last recording that you're like, oh my gosh, this was amazing?
You know, I was just mentioning this to one of my other friends where I'm like, I am struggling to actually read a book that I enjoy.
Yeah. And,
of course, I love Spotify, and I love all the audiobooks in Spotify, but I can only listen for so many hours at a time.
Yeah, the 17-hour.
So I'm kind of, like, struggling all the way through the ACOTAR series. So I'm in A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm at chapter 61, I think. So I'm almost to the end, and it's right when the city has been attacked and they're going to, and everyone else but Reese is going to hibern, and they've already made it, and all that nice little smuttiness.
Yeah. I read the first 2 books, and then I was like, okay, this is a commitment based on how long these books are. Mm-hmm. So I'm just waiting for that moment where I can just sit and read and really fully commit.
I was going to say, that's never going to happen. You realize that, right? But, so the other thing with that, my friend has a subscription to Libro FM, which is all audiobooks, and she just basically logged me into her phone, to her account. So now I can listen to any audiobook I want. Oh, as long as her or either of her 2 kids are not actually already listening to something. And I'm like, yes!
That is amazing.
Oh, it's so nice. I love that. What about you? Any good books?
So oh my gosh, I don't know what happened, but I've plowed through books. I think a lot of it's just like really fast reads that have been great.
You've definitely been plowing through books, and I've been putting them up as fast as I possibly can.
Well, I listened to Maid. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I didn't listen to it. I read it as an ebook. And the story was very inspiring about how a woman's like trying to survive on very, very little income as a maid, and then is raising a daughter. But some of the stuff, like some of her mindset, I was like, Like, she was throwing a fit one day about not being able to get organic milk because 2% is shit. And I was like, I kind of grew up on 2%, and it's not just sugar. So,
I mean, 2% is better than 1% in fat-free. Those other ones taste like bad water.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely interesting, but it wasn't my favorite. And then on vacation, I read a Colleen Hoover book. Actually, I read 2 Colleen Hoover books. And then, of course, we started the series by Elle Kennedy, and I was like, I just have to keep going because I need to know what happens, darn it. I listened to Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and you had kind of mentioned that wasn't the best start, and I fully agree.
I was about to say, there's a lot of really good Kristen Hanna books. That was definitely a story of battling all the way through, because it's during the Great Depression. That is just the most depressing time in American history there possibly could be.
Yep.
And it's a mom trying to feed her kids after her husband ran off.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
it's brutal.
It's rough.
But I did read 2 really good books. The Guest List by Lucy Foley. That's one where everyone gets invited to a wedding on an island off of Ireland, and a murder happens, and you jump all over time as far as a matter of hours. So you're kind of seeing things from multiple perspectives. And I actually liked the way that she wove it together. It was pretty good. And then Sandra Brown, Out of Nowhere, was fantastic. There is definitely a trigger warning in that a shooting is involved. But there is an author's note at the beginning of the book that I really, really appreciated. And it's not just the lead up to a shooting. It's the aftermath and how people handle it. And then the actual shooter is a total surprise. I was like, holy shit. So those are the books that I've been reading, and then I'm currently reading All the Missing Girls, and it's not my favorite. It does a time hop where it goes from day 15 to day 1, but it's you had mentioned at one point, when you can't fully connect or trust a main character, that's a problem, and that's exactly how I feel, where I'm just ugh, you're hiding something. So yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling I'm going to be slowing down just because I have a lot of projects underway at the moment.
And I might be picking up because, track season's done, school is done. So we shall see. I currently have 3 books checked out on Libby, and one of them happens to be Magnolia Parks. And I just keep hearing really good things about it. And it is one of those very interesting, socialite love stories of 2 people who are very they're not necessarily actresses, they're not those type of people, but they're the children of people, almost like the Paris Hiltons of the world.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where they're in that social spotlight all the time and being scrutinized and criticized and blah, 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 blah. But they're not necessarily doing anything else to make it so, but it's their parents, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So one of them is Magnolia Parks. Pretty interesting so far. I'm 28% into it, but then I also have Harvesting the Heart by Jodi Picoult. I love her. She's my favorite author of all time, I think. Sorry, not sorry. And then November 9th by Colleen Hoover, because I'm November 9th is my birthday, so I have to read that book at least once in my life.
Did you see the TikTok of Jodi Picoult, and she's holding up books like men hold up fish?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I loved that one. It was fantastic. But of course, I don't have TikTok, so I see it on Instagram 3 days later.
We're those millennials that don't have TikTok that just watch it.
I won't. I can't. I don't know.
Yeah. But so part of the reason why it's been quite a while is we are covering a book based on a series. And if everyone remembers correctly, there was a release date that was late. So that's why we're recording a little bit late, was so that we could watch the series and then compare the actual series to the book and go from there.
And I gotta say, I plowed through the 4 episodes that are only released. And I was freaking pissed when I figured out, wait, you're ending it there?
Yeah.
It's not even halfway through the book.
I know.
This is bullshit.
Yes.
And it doesn't help that the book and the series barely follow the same timeline.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
Well, so with that, I'll jump into my spiel about it.
And then just so we can throw that out there, we haven't mentioned it yet, but yes, this is a Bridgerton themed episode. Well, true crime isn't, but this first part.
Yes, we're doing Bridgerton first. Bridgerton, the third book. This is following Penelope's story and Colin Bridgerton's story.
What's the fourth book, but third season? Excuse
me, my bad.
It's all
That's
good.
right, because
the writers couldn't keep it together.
It's fine. It's fine. And to pair with, since it is 10 o'clock in the morning, we are drinking Blood Orange Mimosa tea that is Bridgerton themed, and it is just the Republic of Tea. That's where we got them from, with some white honey, which is also Bridgerton, also from the Republic of Tea. And I must say, it's delicious. That's very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, so to start, this story started in the previous books, so let's give a little bit of backstory before we jump right in. This sequel predates the original by about 11 years. We are in 18th century London, where girls go out for seasons to find husbands. There are carriages and buggies, and gossip is the only thing that keeps people entertained, and the most important thing about society is maintaining your status in it or gaining status where you can. We start off with Penelope Featherington's first season as an eligible marriage prospect, but being overweight and a wallflower doesn't bode well for her seasons. It doesn't help that her mother insists on making her wear unflattering colors and the rest of her sisters are ditzy. And it was amazing just watching these episodes how actually ditzy they are. And I was like, I forgot how stupid you are.
They nailed it. The actresses nailed it.
Oh, they did a great job with it. Holy smokes. However, Penelope is... I'm going to turn this way so that I can actually read it better and zoom in. So I don't have to, squint like old lady eyes. All right. So where was I? Sorry. So Penelope is friends with one of the sisters in the Bridgerton clan. This posse consists of Violet, the matriarch, and in order from oldest to youngest, Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth. The previous books follows the stories of the older siblings and their quest for romance. The Netflix series follows Daphne Bridgerton as she falls into scandal but ends up in a great marriage with Simon Hastings. However, during this season with Penelope and Daphne, we meet a mysterious figure who writes gossip columns about all the parties in Mayfair. So in the first season, we have this person who's writing a gossip column. It's like the very first gossip column ever, and everyone is just so intrigued with it. People have been reading this paper for over a decade at this point, but close to the beginning of this book, Lady Whistledown, our mysterious anonymous author, proclaims that she will be retiring from writing the column. As this is the most exciting part of the season, everyone is talking about it. Meanwhile, Colin Bridgerton has returned from another extravagant vacation, mostly to avoid his mother's questions about finding a wife and getting married. During this book, this part of the story, Colin is 33, while Penelope is 28. Penelope has been best friends with Eloise Bridgerton since before their first season 10 years prior, but Penelope has been in love with Colin Bridgerton long before. She has kept this hidden for many years along with another secret. Penelope is Lady Whistledown. In this book, Colin grows up and realizes that he is running away from home because he does not feel he has any sort of purpose. But it turns out that he is a fantastic writer and has been cataloging his voyages through Scotland, Italy, Greece, and other far reaches of Europe in journals. When he comes home for this season, he realizes how much he cares for Penelope Featherington and ends up courting her. Unceremoniously, I might add. During a carriage ride, after Colin figures out that Penelope is Lady Whistledown, and they decide to get married within a month. I wish weddings actually worked like that.
Yeah.
So seriously. Oh, you want to get married? Okay. Here's the date, 1 month from now. Go. But you also have to remember that Lady Whistledown has insulted many of high society, so Penelope has to try extra hard to keep her secret, even after retirement, because Lady Danbury, whom I would like to be just like when I get older. She's so sassy.
I love her.
Love her. Puts out a contest for anyone who can unmask Lady Whistledown. During this fiasco, the very unliked Cressida Twombly tries to claim fame by saying she is Whistledown, but then Penelope gets caught up in saving Lady Whistledown's reputation that she makes an error, and Cressida tries to blackmail her, but Colin decides to just come out with the truth in the end. The reason he did not decide this sooner was because he was jealous of Penelope's achievements and was feeling insufficient. Typical male. Mm-hmm. God. He wasn't going to leave any type of legacy, but Penelope convinces him to publish his journal so that everybody can read. A happy ending by all accounts. Now to switch over to the series, where it ends with being courted unceremoniously in the cart, but Colin doesn't know that Lady Whistledown is Penelope yet. This season kind of begins with Eloise and Penelope being in a tiff. Like, they're no longer friends with each other. And then Eloise is friends with Cressida. And I'm just like, ew, stop. You're a bitch.
There's something to be said for drama in a series, but that drama is not necessary.
Oh, it was awful. I'm just like, you people suck. Mm-hmm. Ugh. And then, of course, it's just the courting and trying to find a husband. And, of course, and in the series, Colin is trying to help Penelope find a husband, or is like almost like giving her flirting tips or something. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, they have their unceremonious, please kiss me, I don't want to be an old spinster and never die being kissed. And then all of a sudden it's Colin is obsessed with Penelope. I'm like, that's all it took? You're dumb. If that is all it took for you to realize this, you are really dumb. So frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so freaking frustrating. I love that Penelope gets her happy ending, obviously, and it's just like, and gotta say, Colin is just a very handsome man.
They definitely gave both of them a glow up this season.
Major glow up. Like, Penelope definitely lost some weight, got the right colors for her. The emerald dress that she wore in the first episode, I'm like, yes, yes, girl. Yes.
Well, I also think, like, possibly she did lose weight, but at the same time, I think that the dresses fit her better.
Yes.
And I think that's a key thing. Because one of the things I noticed was, you know how, like, there's the top part of the bodice where, like, that's where the boobs should go. It never fit her right in the ugly, ugly yellow dresses.
No, it was like the line for the bodice went, like, across her tits. Mm-hmm. It was, like, right at nipple line.
Yeah. And
I was like,
yeah, and with these better fitting dresses, it's like, wow, Penelope, like, you're beautiful.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't help that, and they even mentioned that in the book, and that was I feel like that was a huge part of her glow up, especially from, even if it is 10 years later in the book, or just 2 years later in the third season for the series. Mm-hmm. But that was a huge thing, is they even said, yeah, she lost a little bit of weight, she no longer wears the same awful colors that are all of the, like, grapefruit pink. Yeah. And
yellow.
Citrus yellow and awful green, and I'm just like, I understand. I would not want that either. Yeah. Light blue's fine. Lilac's fine. Dark green, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, please. Nice bright red. I'll take that. That's me.
I think the thing that I really appreciated was, it's obviously the smut that, like, brought a bunch of people in for season 1. Mm-hmm. Season 2, I'm going to be honest, was really disappointing for me. Because
not very smutty.
No, not very smutty. It was very much so a tease until, like, the final episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like the writers redeemed themselves in this season. And it's not just with the chemistry between Colin and Penelope, but they also brought in the smut with Anthony and Kate, too.
I love that. I love that pairing of those two.
Yeah. Like, their spice level went through the roof, and I was like, they got redeemed. I'm very happy. But I'm very angry the same way as you. I mean, not enough to, like, have it affect my daily life, of course, but no. I'm not happy that they brought up the season in 2 separate parts. I'm like, we're already hooked, just give it to us.
Like, why do we have to wait? I know. Why are we waiting? I don't understand.
Well, they're pulling what a lot of networks have been starting to do, which was the first half of the season in the fall and second half in, like, the spring or, like, in the winter time. And I'm like, stop it. So
you already got the release. This is not fair.
I know. But to be honest with you, I definitely feel like the actual books are decent. But I do feel personally like this actual Netflix series is better. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is, like, the inclusiveness of, like, all skin colors, all backgrounds. I enjoy the banter, and I don't know. I think it's a really well done show, for sure.
Oh, yeah. They definitely added an extra layer of drama, I feel. Every season seems to have another layer of it.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And granted, it's been a while since I read the book because I did it, like, way back when, like, even before I went on vacation in April. But there was the part where, obviously, Colin and Penelope have sex for the first time. And I feel like it was like, yes, there's a little bit of smut, but it wasn't, like, too much. And from what people have said, I think they were referring to it as, like, the candle scene. But, like, I guess they hyped that up even more in the second part. And I'm like, it's just gonna get better.
Yes.
And we have to wait for that shit.
Yes. Jackasses. It's not nice.
But I did find it to be a pretty easy read.
Oh, yeah. I definitely found it to be a very easy read. And for me, like, I like the smut every now and then, but I like a good solid storyline more than I enjoy just the smut. Yeah. So, like the one book that I just gave you that I'm probably like, it's not worth the read. I'll be like, yeah, there's smut. It's an okay storyline. It's not fantastic. I had to like fight all the way through it because I'm like, I have to finish it. Because I'm one of those people, I have to finish books. Yeah. I can't start a book and not finish it. I have to figure out how it ends. It's so frustrating for me sometimes because I think I did that with another book and I was just so disappointed at the ending. I was like, A couple books I've actually done that with. Yeah.
I just had to look up on my Instagram because I like keeping that journal of like what I've read. And then Colleen Hoover's Never Never was that for me. Mm-hmm. Where it was like, saying that? I don't know. I was very excited because in my mind, Colleen Hoover like has her shit together. But that book was just very disappointing. And I was like, I pushed myself to read through it. Okay, moving on.
Uh-huh. And you're not reading the sequel?
No, apparently there's like 3 books in that series and they all sound the same where they're trying to figure out what the heck happened to their memory and why. And I'm thinking, if there's no resolution, why am I wasting my time?
Like, please resolve it for me.
Yeah. And it can be done in one book. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, I'm excited actually for Benedict as well. Because I know he had more of a role in this season.
Yes, and he was trying to court
the widow.
The widow, yeah.
Do I remember the name? No.
Nope. I just watched it yesterday and I don't remember the name. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's definitely like in there and like, oh, I like that one. Oh, I'm going to be macho and I'm going to like that one.
Yeah. So I definitely like how he had a little bit more of a standing. And Hyacinth had more. I mean, granted, in the book, she was like the troublemaker and the rebel rouser and all of that.
Love her, too.
So it was really nice to see other characters getting stand up. But one thing I'm like really curious about, and I haven't dug into this at all, but the actress for Francesca is a different actress this season.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened there. Okay. But I did have that thought. But either way,
Francesca. Well, and then in the book, isn't it Hyacinth's first season?
I don't think so.
Not in the book? It was someone's first season in the book, and I thought it was Hyacinth since she's the youngest one.
No.
Because Francesca was, like, being elusive in the book.
Yeah.
And then, wasn't it... I can't remember.
I don't remember. Listeners, if you remember this shit, let us know.
I can't remember.
Because my brain is not braining. Either way, I was pretty impressed by the book. I was like, okay. And then
I did like the drama and the quick pacedness of it, and the just kind of being able to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you ready to turn the page over and go to true crime? Murder. Okay.
I like it. I'm very excited. Do we have a good one today?
Oh yeah. So there is a blanket advisory and trigger warning to listeners. This case does involve a sexual assault, torture, and a complete misuse of the foundation of BDSM. And of course, we're not poo-pooing the BDSM culture in any way, but consent is key, and consent was never granted in this case.
Interesting.
Yep. Today, I will be telling you about Colleen Stan, otherwise known as the Girl in the Box. And ask as you shall receive. This is a kidnapping story.
Ooh.
Yep. So prepared to get emotionally fucked up. And when this episode is done, we're going to splurge on some self-care.
That's a good idea. I like that.
According to Wikipedia, the core elements of Colleen's story has been the basis for episodes of Criminal Minds, Ghost Whisperer, and Law & Order SVU.
And it's Colleen, not Colleen.
Correct.
Interesting.
I had to, do that note in my story so I could, remember to say it right. Because, yes, it's very easy to say Colleen.
Okay.
It was profiled in an episode of Investigation Discovery's Wicked Attraction, was mentioned in a 2012 episode of Sci-Fi's Paranormal Witness, and on Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries.
Ooh.
Though much of Paranormal Witness and Unsolved Mysteries focuses on the other victim involved in this story. The main plot for the documentary-style horror movie, The Poughkeepsie Tapes, from 2007, was based on this, and Lifetime produced a movie called Girl in the Box in 2016, followed by a 2-hour documentary. Yeah, it's been covered.
Holy smokes, no kidding.
And I actually watched the documentary as part of my research, but it's also mentioned in an episode of The Walking Dead. So, I don't remember if I haven't looked at these notes since last month, to be very honest with you. I was very fired up and very fascinated.
I understand.
And then I walked away. But if I remember correctly, we've heard about, Elizabeth's, we've heard about, other kidnapping stories. This was before all of that. This was, from my understanding, the precedent for all of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In the literature world, the case is documented in the book Perfect Victim, The True Story of the Girl in the Box, by prosecutor Christine McGuire and journalist Carla Norton, and referenced in Kathy, is it Reich?
R-E-I-C-H?
Yeah, for the novel, with her novel.
Is it Reich?
Reich, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't remember. Either way, the person behind Bones.
Yes.
Monday morning. Yep. And then an updated version of Stan's story, Colleen Stan, The Simple Gifts of Life by Jim Green, was published in 2009. And there are music references too, but this case is long and detailed, and ain't nobody got time for that.
Mm-hmm.
Despite all the cultural references, before searching for this case, I had honestly never even heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Colleen was born on December 31st, 1956, and she grew up in Riverside, California. And
right before the New Year. I love those.
Yeah.
My aunt has that birthday.
Nice.
And then her daughter is a New Year's baby.
Holy moly, holiday season babies. Look at that. And obviously we're in New York, so we're not super familiar, but I do want to give the outline of where in California. So Riverside is east of the LA, Santa Monica, and Anaheim area, south of San Bernardino, and southwest of Big Bear Lake. So more Southern California and a little inland. Even though it was a city-like environment, it had more of a country feel. Colleen grew up with 2 sisters and parents who divorced when she was still a kid. Both of her parents would go on to remarry, and it wasn't clear to me if her mom had more kids, but her dad definitely did. Colleen and her sisters would visit their dad on the weekends, and she would do whatever she could to stay away from mom's home since she didn't get along with her stepdad. Eventually, all the kids moved in with her dad, and it wasn't until after this whole ordeal that Colleen would start to get closer to her mom emotionally in general. So dad was the main person in her life.
Gotcha.
After getting out of grade school and failed marriage, Colleen got into a car and drove off to live in Eugene, Oregon. She was a free spirit who liked to explore, and this was the 70s, so that was the norm. And
yep.
Yeah. And Eugene was a favorite spot for living the hippie life back then. One day, in May of 1977, Colleen wanted to travel south to surprise a friend for her birthday in California. She hitchhiked the entire way. Isn't it crazy how over time it's like we now poo-poo hitchhiking because of crazy people?
I would never. As a 30-year-old woman, I would never go hitchhiking. Yeah. However, I do have a friend that I just took to church the other day with me. She's going on a 900-mile hike, and she's like jumping around all over New York and Vermont, and she's just like, yeah, I'm going to get from this trail to this trail, and I'm going to hitchhike. And I'm just like,
holy
okay.
shit.
Bless your soul. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, one of my favorite stories was hearing one of my older brothers was hitchhiking, and I think he was going through Keene at the time on the way home, and my mom drove right by him and didn't stop.
He must have pissed her off, is what I'm assuming.
Well, she didn't know it was him.
That's so funny. That's even better. I love that.
So anyway, she hitchhiked the entire way. She made it about 5.5 hours south to Red Bluff before she had to find her next ride. For about 30 minutes, she turned down multiple rides from men until a younger couple with a baby stopped. And she evaluated the setup and deemed them to be okay before getting in. However, after a mile, she started to feel uneasy. The guy was...
a couple with a baby.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The guy was looking at her weird in the rearview mirror. However, she pushed down those negative vibes. The couple stopped at a gas station and Colleen went to the bathroom. And a voice in her head, so her instinct, told her to jump out of the car and never look back. She didn't do that, though, and proceeded to get back in the car.
No.
Yep.
Listen to the little voice in your head. It knows best.
Yep.
Even if it sounds like this.
Yep. And then, so, ladies, read excerpts from The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. The book as a whole is absolute trash, but the stories within it are what recounts, and those are gold. Like, just what you learn. Like, this was my textbook in college. Mm-hmm. But they all focus on listening to your instinct because it's more than just a thought. Yeah. So when Colleen got back in the car, there was a strange box sitting next to her. She thought it was weird, so she just ignored it. And the couple told her they were going to check out some ice caves, and Colleen didn't question them, but thought it was strange since she hadn't seen any signs for these ice caves. They drove to a wooded area, and everyone but her got out of the car. There was a stream down the way, and the wife and child went down to it, but the man got in the back and took out a knife. He then proceeded to handcuff her to the car, pressing the knife into her throat. He placed a gag over her head, and it went under her chin so she couldn't open her mouth and yell.
No, thank you.
Yep.
No, thank you. Mm-mm.
He then laid her down on the seat. That's when she learned what the box was for. Her head went into it.
I don't like those.
No.
I've seen SVU episodes with those, and I don't like those. Those, no.
Yeah. He then put a sleeping bag over her, all while the wife and child got back into the car. Yep. The wife fully knew what was happening, and she said nothing.
Okay.
Now, who exactly was this couple? They were 23-year-old lumber mill worker Cameron Hooker and his 9-year-old wife, Janice Hooker.
Whoa. You said 9-year-old?
19.
Okay, you said
Sorry.
9.
19.
Oh.
Sorry. This is what I have you here for.
No.
Yeah, so 23-year-old Cameron, 19, thank you, 19-year-old Janice.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah. According to All That's Interesting, Cameron was born in Alturas, California in 1953. He moved around quite a bit as a kid with his family, but he was known as a happy kid who made others laugh. His family eventually settled down in Red Bluff in 1969, and that's when Cameron's personality changed. He became withdrawn and avoided social activities, but avoided trouble in his high school years. He tried searching for... I tried searching for what exactly happened to him, and this was the most information I could find. Like, there was nothing. So
Interesting.
Maybe it was like a brain imbalance or something. Mm-hmm. When he was 19, he met his future wife, Janice, and she was 15. Janice was described as being insecure, and when she was interested in a guy, she latched onto him. She liked that Cameron was tall and good-looking, and the fact that he had interest in her. She had a tendency to do whatever was asked of her in exchange for love. And based on what he asked her to do, I have a strong feeling she didn't have a great childhood.
Yeah, just from what I'm hearing right now, it sounds like she's a man-pleasing, daddy issue type of girl.
Oh, yes.
Yikes.
Let me tell you, it's pretty bad. When Cameron asked if he could hang her by a tree by leather handcuffs, something he said he'd done with girlfriends in the past, She agreed.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay.
The experience hurt her and was frightening, but she pushed those feelings away when he became affectionate with her after the fact. As their relationship progressed, obviously, the violence did as well. When they got married in 1975, the acts of violence started to include whipping, choking, and underwater submersions that bordered death. Like, it was fucked up.
Like, power to you if that's your lifestyle.
Yes.
There's no judgments, but and if this is normal, like, I get it. I don't know if this is normal, but yikes. That sounds like it's a little borderline. Especially the almost drowning part seems very borderline.
That's the part that really got me. I was like, no, thank you. That's for me, that's the opposite of sexual. But Janice testified in court that she loved Cameron and only put up with these acts because she wanted to have a child with him. That's when they came to the agreement that Cameron could have a sex slave if she had a child.
Oh. Oh. Okay.
Yep.
How as a woman do you subject another woman to that kind of stuff for a child? Like,
yeah. Yep, that is why it's all problematic.
No.
And sure enough, they did have a child. And now was the time to get a sex slave, and that's where Colleen came into play. The hookers worked their way back to Red Bluff, where Colleen was brought, blindfolded, through their home and into the basement. That basement is where Colleen, and she did this, like, I'm quoting her, lost her freedom. And this is the part where I'm like, holy shit. She was forced to stand on something like a box, and her wrists were restrained by leather straps and hung, naked. He then proceeded to whip her, and she was always blindfolded, gagged, and restrained. According to an article from the Santa Cruz Sentinel from May 1987, Hooker had gotten tips from S&M magazines on how to kidnap, brainwash, and enslave women.
You got this from a magazine.
They were fucked up.
I kind of want to find those magazines now and be like, excuse me, can we,
Oh, I'm sure they're no longer even in existence. I could be very wrong.
Oh, probably not, but I'd be very intrigued to see if those articles even still existed anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
And that's why I was saying, like, we understand BDSM, we're not poo-pooing it, but, like, there was no consent in this.
Yeah, there was no one saying, yes, I want this.
Yep.
Other than Janice, but you know what? It's not her body, so she doesn't have a say.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. He'd put wax on her ears and covered her head with the ox. I'm trying to remember what the ox was. Basically, she covered her head, like, so she couldn't see a lot. With a box. There we go. Typos. Hi.
Oh, there we go. Yep, the
covered
box.
her head with a box. What she saw the most of was the floor through the bottom of her blindfold. And eventually she was able to regain her composure and did her best to look around the room. She eyed some magazines depicting women naked and hung up. And this is, like, the part where I just was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what? This is fucked up. This is twisted. She also saw the hookers having sex. Yes, at her feet. Cameron Hooker is a fucked up individual.
Yeah, it sounds like Janice is, too.
Yep.
That's... Oof.
Colleen,
That's disturbing.
Colleen was 20 herself and didn't know what any of this was.
Mm-hmm.
Once the hookers were done, Cameron unhooked Colleen, put the box back on her head, and put her in a box, chaining her hands and feet to hooks on the inside.
Oh.
As you would expect, she freaked out and struggled to breathe. The way that the headpiece was on, there wasn't much room on her neck to breathe in general, so she struggled the entire night. Finally, in the morning, when she was exhausted from fighting all night, Cameron returned. He removed the box from her head, moved her to a table, and chained her hands and feet to each corner. He put her head back in the box and left her there.
Oh, so we're like spread eagle, oh hey, with our head in the box.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
No.
300 miles north, her roommates and parents obviously became worried. After confirming that Colleen never made it to her friend's house, everyone was freaking out. On the 4th day of her being missing, a missing persons report was filed by her roommates. Colleen's dad eventually went north to start their own search, and her mom called the police department every day.
Good choice. Good mama.
Yeah. So for here on out, it's like X amount of time after the kidnapping, here's where things were going.
Oh, God.
2 months after the kidnapping.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Colleen. You've been doing this for 2 months?
Oh, it's so bad. Yeah. 2 months after the kidnapping, Colleen was starting to lose track of time. She was able to tell the time of day based on temperature. Obviously, colder in the morning and evening, warmer during the day. Pain and fear became part of her daily life, as Cameron liked to suspend and whip her every night. On a homemade torture rack, he also liked to stress her by pulling on huge chains.
You sound like a sadist, sir.
100%. She was pulled so tight, she would have problems breathing. This poor woman. He had a bedpan that sat on a chair, so she had to use the bathroom in front of him.
That's yucky.
Yeah. Slowly, she learned survival meant to obey. He threatened to cut her throat if she ever screamed during the torture. And after months, Colleen started losing hope of freedom. 3 months. Hooker built a more permanent cage. It was a room under the stairs and put her to work. There was a single light bulb, and for once, her blindfold came off. She would often look around and see if there were any scratch marks to be found. These would represent if anyone else had been there before. Her first task was shelling 2 sacks of walnuts. However, she was also able to craft and make dolls, but these would be taken and sold by the hookers.
Oh.
According to extra footage from an Oxygen episode of the crime, some nights he would bring her outside so she could dig under the shed until a hole had been formed. He called it the dungeon.
Ew.
And this is a spot where he'd ultimately keep all of his kidnapped victims.
No.
Yep. The hole was dug by hand for several months, with Colleen naked the entire time.
Okay.
Yep.
That's... Oh.
Keep in mind, this mainly took place in the fall and winter months. Hooker would then create his own cement blocks to line the walls and floor and design this layout to expand if needed. However, he's a fucking idiot, and this didn't work because when it rained, the hole would get flooded.
This is a normal thing, you know, like water and dirt and
Yep.
God.
But this was also the time when Colleen was able to have her first bath after being kidnapped.
Oh.
Remember, Cameron Hooker is a monster. This was not a typical bath. She was kept blindfolded and tied up, and Hooker pushed her face down into the full bathtub.
No, thank you.
He would wait until she stopped blowing bubbles before dragging her up again by the hair. And then according to the Oxygen footage I saw, he had done the same thing to Jan as well.
No, thank you. Yep. Wait, so is Colleen the first victim?
And we'll get to it. Nope.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Colleen does survive this. And a lot of my information came from her talking in this documentary. But there is another victim.
After her?
Before her.
Was she the last one then?
Well, we'll see.
God!
Yes, she was. So 8 months in.
Jeez, girl.
He handed her a paper and had her read it. He told her he was part of a sex trading ring called The Company.
Blech.
And presented her with a contract where she'd be his sex slave. If she didn't sign, he would make her regret it.
No!
So she signed.
Of course she did.
Her new slave name was Kay Powers. She was given a nightgown to wear and was allowed upstairs. She had to address him as Sir or Master and Janice as Ma'am, and could never look up. If she ever ran away, he threatened to harm her family. And for the first time, Janice was around Colleen, and she hated it. She was jealous and treated Colleen like the other woman.
You were the one who said you could have a sex slave. Just saying.
1 year in. Blindfolded and gagged.
God!
Yeah, I know. A year of this shit. It's insane.
No.
Blindfolded and gagged, Hooker brought Colleen upstairs to his bedroom. He tied her up to all four corners, and both him and Janice got up on either side of her. Hooker then started sexually assaulting Colleen. He marched her back downstairs and locked her in the box. Needless to say, Janice was pissed. The sex was supposed to be reserved for his wife. That was clearly not happening, as whenever Janice wasn't home, Cameron would sexually assault Colleen. And he was careful to always wear a condom.
Well, that answers my question of, was Colleen just the whipping post, or the one that took the abuse, and Janice got the dick?
Yep.
Or was it more? And now that answers my question.
Yep.
Of course he can't. Of course it's not just the beatings. Why would it just be the beatings? That would be too easy.
Cameron Hooker is a fucking monster.
Sucks.
Yep. The family eventually moved to a mobile home outside of town to avoid wandering eyes. There was no basement, so he put together a ventilated wooden box and hid it under the couple's waterbed.
Yucky.
Yep.
Oh, who has waterbeds?
Well, keep in mind this
like, I know this is the 70s, but like, ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Yep.
Yucky.
This chamber was Colleen's new home.
Oh.
She was forced to move 1 foot to scoot the bedpan under her butt and use it. In the box, she could hear everything the couple was doing on their waterbed.
Mm-hmm.
Janice was under the impression that once Cameron got a sex slave, she wouldn't be tortured anymore, but that wasn't happening.
No.
It was on that bed that Janice gave birth to the second child, and Colleen was allowed out to look at the baby, but was soon locked back in the box.
You had another kid with this psycho?
Uh-huh.
You make all the bad decisions, don't you?
As time went on, Colleen got more freedom. She was allowed to watch the kids, do chores in the yard, and take 15-minute jogs around the neighborhood. Fear, however, kept her on an invisible leash. Cameron told the neighbors that she was a live-in babysitter, and everyone accepted that. Cameron started letting her out of the box and made her sit in the bathroom, where a chain would be around her neck, and the other end was put around the toilet. At this time, Colleen would read the Bible, and religion became her saving grace.
Sounds like she had some serious case of Stockholm Syndrome.
Cameron one day let Colleen call home to say she was coming for a visit. He reminded her the company would be monitoring the visit, and they'd bugged her dad's phone. People would get hurt or even killed if she said anything. Once she got out of the car, her family was waiting for her. One of her sisters said in the documentary that Colleen had a nickname of Pudge, and when she got out of the car, she was not pudgy at all. Her clothes and hair were very different than what she'd normally wear, which was a red flag. Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Her boyfriend came across as a bookworm. Well, so Cameron came across as a bookworm, and there was a red flag for them as well, because that just wasn't really her type.
Cameron went with her to meet the family and disguised himself as a boyfriend?
Yep.
Oh, no.
And it was during this that Cameron drove off for the first time in 4 years. Colleen was alone with her family.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't press her too much regarding where
Did you say 4 years?
Yeah. 4 years. Yep. Yep.
Oh my gosh, is that family? I'd be like,
yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah, they didn't see her for 4 years. So for the first time in 4 years, Cameron left her alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And of course, they didn't want to risk losing her, because they're like, okay, like, if this is her choice, like, we don't want to lose our relationship with her. Cameron picked her up the next day, and when she started walking away, her family wouldn't hear from her again for another 3.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This went on for that long?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah. And like, as a society, I'd like to think we've grown a lot where like we recognize a lot of these signs and we're like, fuck this, like, this is the protocol. But this was before all of that was in place.
I know, this is the 70s.
And her dad regrets not getting the license plate number. Mm-hmm. Upon returning to the mobile home, she was locked back up in the box. And sometimes this was as long as 23 hours a day.
No, thank you.
At 27, Colleen had been with the family for 7 years.
Blech.
At this time, when the kids and Cameron were away from the house, Janice would let Colleen out of the box, and they started to bond. Eventually, Cameron let Colleen sleep on the living room floor and could work at the local hotel in town. Meanwhile, Janice started confiding in her pastor, portraying their living arrangements as a love triangle. The pastor told her that God would not approve of this, and this is when Janice started to see the light and tells Colleen that Cameron is not part of any company. The stories about runaway slaves, sex slaves, and the board were not real.
Of course they weren't real.
We're
a sadist and a liar.
Exactly.
Okie dokie then.
Yep.
Okay.
The next day, when Cameron was at work, Colleen got on a bus to go home. Before leaving, she called him to tell him he was no longer in control and there was nothing he could do about it. His response? You have any guesses?
The company's going to find you?
He started bawling.
Excuse me?
Yep.
You crying?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah.
But...
Back in Riverside, Colleen moved in with her father and told her family about being abducted.
We are unstable. Yep. Someone is very unstable.
Oh, yes. The very minimum. She refused to provide more information than necessary and never reported what happened to the police. Her family encouraged her to do so, but she didn't think the police would do anything about it. Despite being home, Colleen didn't cut ties with Janice. Per Janice's pleading to keep things quiet, Colleen did. And obviously her mental health went down the tubes.
No.
She'd go to work with her dad because she didn't want to stay home alone. Eventually, she got a job cleaning for a local hospital and attended church regularly. Back in Red Bluff, Janice took the kids and left Cameron.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Finally.
I know, right?
Took you long enough.
She turned on Cameron and reported him to the police, warning Colleen that someone would be calling her. Janice told the police everything, plus that Colleen was not Cameron's first victim. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So, of course, we're called Books, Booze, and Murder.
Ugh.
One was kept for 7 to 8 years. Mm-hmm. The other was killed.
Of course.
And the detective had a hard time believing this, but obviously looked into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to go back in time 8 years earlier. So, this was a year before Colleen came around.
Mm-hmm.
18-year-old Mary Elizabeth, or Marliz Spannhake, went missing, and she's never been found. According to an article from Investigation Discovery, Marliz vanished in Chico, California after she got into an argument with her boyfriend at a local flea market. She decided to walk home, and her friends never heard from her again. Her story was just like Colleen's. A car with a younger couple and a baby asked if she wanted a ride, and she took it. They took her out of the area, put a box on her head, tied her up, and brought her to Red Bluff. Same exact MO as Colleen's abduction. Cameron's plan was to keep her as a sex slave. Embrace yourself. This one's hard. Because again, I haven't read these notes in a while, and I'm like, Whoop! And cut her vocal cords since she wouldn't stop screaming.
Yucky! Yucky! Oh, no.
Yep.
No.
I remember that one. Now I'm like, oh shit.
Yikes.
Yep. When he attempted to do so, he learned he didn't know what he was doing, and he'd have to kill her to keep her quiet. Disgusting.
You suck hard.
According to Janice's interview with police, Cameron shot Marliz in the stomach with a pellet gun and strangled her.
Wonderful.
Later, the police went to the basement, found BBs embedded in some wood, and learned that Cameron had borrowed a pellet pistol from his brother, which had most likely been used.
You have siblings?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Police were able to talk to everyone who resided at the home. So keep in mind, like, this is years later, like, new people live there. But police were able to talk to everyone who resided at the home after the hookers, and they all verified that they never shot a pellet gun in the home. So most likely these bullets were from Cameron. So it was, like, multiple owners after the hookers lived there. At 2 a.m., he went upstairs, told, like, the night where he killed Marliz. Yeah, at 2 a.m., he went upstairs, told Janice what he did, and the two of them got Marliz out of the basement and into the car. They drove to Highway 44 and found a random spot to bury her. Janice was sobbing, obviously, and emotionally unstable once her story was told. The police asked her if she could find a location where Marliz was buried, and she said she probably could. She had been given immunity in exchange for testifying against her husband and helping the police to find Marliz.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yes. However, after searching the targeted areas, a body was not found. At this time, the police turned to talking to Colleen. She was of the mentally, she was mentally still not trusting anyone, but agreed to talk to them. And she requested that her family be there with her. During questioning, Colleen confirmed Janice's story. When asked if there are other sex slaves, she thought of a picture she had seen in the basement of a woman in like a typical school picture.
Mm-hmm.
Her description of the woman matched up with Marliz.
Oh.
At that time, they told Colleen what had happened. Police then arrested Cameron, thank God, and he was cooperative during the arrest, but refused to say anything. So I'm assuming it was like physically, he was like, okay.
So you were smart for a second there.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. Police found everything in a search of his property, and it was clear he had plans to kidnap more women. Obviously, the community was shocked, and of course, the case landed in the hands of the only female attorney in the prosecutor's office.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic, actually.
Her name is Christine McGuire, and she herself was married with a young child. She had never had a case of this magnitude, so needless to say, the pressure was on.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron's defense was that he did kidnap her and did hold her as a sex slave, but he let her go. Therefore, the jury should not find him guilty.
Excuse me?
Piece of shit.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. What? How? No. Yes, he did kidnap her. He didn't let her go. Mm-hmm. She walked away.
Yep.
And she ran away when he was not there. Idiot.
The prosecutor had to prove that she'd been coerced and broken to survive. At this time, Colleen was not filled with emotions, and the prosecutor initially didn't know how to handle that. She was like, what? Do I have anything to work with? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
The prosecutor used exhibits, so pictures and then literally Cameron's inventions in the courtroom to prove the torture used to manipulate victims.
Yucky.
They had to show the jury that it was what was in Cameron's mind in order to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff shown had never been seen or heard of before, so needless to say, it was a shock. When the box was brought in, that gave everyone a reality check.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, holy shit. Yeah, it was gruesome. Janice testified to the abuse that she'd obviously been subjected to herself, and this included her being hung up just like Marliz and Colleen were, but when she was pregnant. She admitted to everything regarding the treatment of Colleen and the lies that she was told. The question was, why did the prosecution break down so easily and give Janice immunity?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, I don't like that. I really don't like that at all.
It reminds me in a way of the Ken and Barbie killers in Canada.
Ugh.
And how they made the deal with the devil.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was bad. Anyway, Colleen's testimony is what everyone was waiting for. They thought she'd break down, but she didn't. She wasn't filled with rage, but the prosecutor learned that by the time that Colleen had bottled everything up, and this was her way of coping.
Yup.
Put a mask on.
8 years of it? Yeah.
Yep.
I would too. I'd be like, yep, no, I can't feel anymore.
Yeah.
I get nothing.
Yeah. But, however, obviously Colleen was doing her best to stay composed and recall all the details necessary. The prosecutor got volunteers to put the box on their heads and get into the box. They started to wonder how Colleen was able to survive. Jurors did not tell their partners what they'd seen during the trial as it was too much to process, and there was definitely a level of shame involved.
Mm-hmm.
The most surprising element from the defense's side? Love letters Colleen had written when she'd been freed from captivity. And they started to wonder if maybe she was a willing participant. Jurors started wondering why Colleen didn't tell anyone despite the freedom she'd been given, or not telling the family where she was when she was with them for the night. Pictures were taken of her that day, grinning from ear to ear. So she's literally like wrapping her arm around him, just like happy as a clam, just happy as can be.
That's called Stockholm Syndrome.
Yep.
That's survival.
Yep.
Shit.
Cameron explained on the stand that at some point, Colleen began to enjoy it and stayed with him. He was in love with Colleen. He claimed the two other women had a sexual relationship and sometimes practiced bondage on one another. Needless to say, Colleen was stunned. She was like, what the fuck, you piece of shit?
No.
This is when Donald
I'm
Lund...
in love with her. Ooh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yep. This is when Donald Lund of Stanford University testified about Stockholm Syndrome.
Hallelujah.
To explain why Colleen started acting the way she did. When the case went to the jury, jurors were shocked from what they just observed. After 2.5 days of deliberation, Cameron Hooker was found guilty in 10 of the 11 counts against him.
Hallelujah.
He was in disbelief. He was like, I'm going to get out of here. It's fine.
Well, of course you do.
He thought he was getting railroaded by Colleen and Janice, and he was sentenced to 104 years in prison.
Hallelujah. Stay there, please.
Yep.
Die in a deep dark hole.
But what about Marliz? To date, no one has been charged with her disappearance. Her remains have still not yet been found.
That's so sad.
Mm-hmm. Cameron is not speaking to anyone, so there's a good chance that his secret will be brought to his grave. But she's not been forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
After the trial, Colleen turned to Dr. Lund because she was struggling with the aftermath of what happened to her. He told her she did everything right because she did everything she could to live.
Mm-hmm.
And this helped her to cope because it's from a really good source that she trusts.
Mm-hmm.
2.5 years after escaping, Colleen had a daughter, but life hasn't been easy for her. She's currently on her 4th marriage, as previous husbands have had a hard time helping her with the trauma, despite telling her, it'll all be fine, I'll help you.
Sounds about right.
Yep. The physical damage has taken its toll as well. Her once thick hair is thin, she suffers from chronic pain, and she has damage to her spine and had surgery in 2008 on her shoulder.
Oh, probably from that stupid stretching machine.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. No.
In 2015, Cameron Hooker applied for early parole.
Nope.
The DA had to do everything in his power to make sure that didn't happen. Colleen advocated to keep him behind bars because laws have changed and Hooker can be possibly released.
Nope.
There has to be a demonstration of bad conduct in order for an inmate to be denied parole.
That's fucking bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. I do not agree with that at all. That is basically saying, yeah, I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to steal anything.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not stealing in jail? Yeah, we're going to let you back out because you're going to go and steal something.
Oh, everyone feels the same way.
No.
Yeah. Colleen and Marliz's sister. So Colleen has become friends with Marliz's sister, and they petitioned for months to keep Cameron behind bars.
Good.
And they worked through social media for signatures, and he was indeed denied parole.
Thank God. Someone did something right.
Oh my God, yeah.
Idiots.
The commissioner was disgusted that he was wasting people's time in applying for parole, and he has done nothing in prison to improve himself. Because he doesn't think he did anything wrong.
I didn't do anything wrong. No, of course you didn't do anything wrong.
Okay. So, I have a few sentences. Just brace yourself.
Oh, God.
In September of 2021, Cameron was released from prison to parole, but not on parole supervision in the community. He is in the custody of the Department of State Hospitals, undergoing sexual violent predator proceedings pursuant to state law. But wait, he got sentenced to 104 years. What the fuck happened to that? Yeah. According to a Change.org article that includes a quote from the Tehama County Deputy Sheriff's Association, an excerpt of this quote states, he was sentenced to serve more than 100 years for those crimes. In 2014, he was eligible for parole and was denied for a period of 15 years. However, Cameron Hooker is possibly being paroled as early as March of 2021. Apparently, this is based on Gavin Newsom's desire to lower the prison population. And for those of us who are like, who the fuck is Gavin Newsom? He is the current governor of California. It's very clear that despite Cameron being up for parole, law enforcement will do everything in its power to keep him locked up. Many officers have written into the Department of Corrections advocating that Cameron be evaluated as a sexually violent predator. from my understanding, being evaluated and taking his history into consideration. History into considering is the primary way to keep him from the public. According to Red Bluff Daily News and KRCR ABC 7, setting up a date to determine if these evaluations should be done are currently being coordinated. And then as of early April 2024, the trial has been delayed yet again to August 15th of this summer, so 2024. Delays have been due to COVID and finding an expert to evaluate him. If not found to be a sexually violent predator, he could be released to a halfway house. Yep. It's been over 40 years since Colleen accepted the ride that would change her life. Since then, Janice Hooker filed for divorce shortly after the trial ended. She changed her last name and raised her children in anonymity. As of 2010, she's working as a social worker and does not keep in touch with Colleen. Colleen has finally found her best partner, is a grandmother, and speaks publicly about what happened to her. The female prosecutor states to this day that this case was her toughest ever on record. For the primary detective working the case, this is the one that will always stick with him. And while this crime was grisly, Colleen is a survivor. And that is the story of Colleen Stan.
That last few sentences is so fucking infuriating to me. All I can think is, good fucking job, California. You let someone else out who's a violent criminal. Like, why do you need to have proof of that? I have another way that you can reduce the prison population.
Yeah.
Hi, it's called a firing squad.
Yeah.
People like him don't deserve to be out in the real world. Sorry if that offends anyone. I don't really care right now because he does not. Like, for some people, fine, whatever. But for someone who kept someone for 8 years, made them basically forget who they are, damage them for the rest of their lives, and did it to someone else before, I'm like, you don't belong in society. Yeah. Where's the firing squad? Where's the lethal injection? Yeah. There's a way you can reduce the prison population.
And that's why I felt like it was so important to list that statement from law enforcement saying, this is what the law says, but all of us in law enforcement in this community are saying keep him behind bars. And that's why I was like, brace yourself, because while he's been quote-unquote released, he hasn't been fully released. But it's terrifying, the shit that he pulled.
I'm like, no, he's going to be walking around potentially in California. By the way, not a fan of California. Some of their policies are absolute fucking dog shit. I'm like, no. Yeah. 104 years is 104 years.
Yeah.
Idiots.
I mean, he's like one of those people where, like, we'd mentioned this in another episode, but, like, when someone's proven that there's absolutely no way for them to be able to be rehabilitated, and they will continue to pull stunts over and over again, and it's very apparent it's them doing it and no one else, that's when I'm not opposed to, like, lethal injection. When it's very, very apparent. And he's one of those people where I'm like, not opposed to that. He's a danger to society. Like,
no, thank you.
Yeah.
You can stay over there.
Yeah.
Stay over there. California, you can keep him. No.
Yeah, so you requested a kidnapping story. How did I do? Did I fuck you up?
Oh my gosh, that was horrible. That was awful. I hated it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Marliz's body has never been found, but I hope that someday she will be. But yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. I hope for her family's sake they've gotten some kind of closure that Fuckwad McGee is behind bars and hopefully stays there for a really, 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 really long time.
Yeah.
I hate so much. So much hate. Okay. Next month, the fabulous duo that Colleen Hoover has written that is starring Blake Lively as Lily Bloom. My heart is so happy with all of it. It ends with us and it starts with us. Now, you have to read ends before begins or starts. Yeah. So I'll read both backs. And, I didn't even realize how to properly pronounce his name until I saw the trailer. So now I know how to pronounce his name. So, Here is It Ends With Us. Lily hasn't always had it easy, but that's never stopped her from working hard for the life she wants. She's come a long way from the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated from college, moved to Boston, and started her own business. So when she feels a spark with a gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid, everything in Lily's life suddenly seems almost too good to be true. Ryle is assertive, stubborn, maybe even a little arrogant. He's also sensitive, brilliant, and has a total soft spot for Lily. But Ryle's competitive aversion to relationships is disturbing. As questions about her new relationship overwhelm her, so do thoughts of Atlas Corrigan, her first love and a link to the past she left behind. He was her kindred spirit, her protector. When Atlas suddenly reappears, everything Lily has built with Ryle is threatened. With this bold and deeply personal novel, Colleen Hoover delivers a heart-wrenching story that breaks exciting new ground for her as a writer. It Ends With Us is an unforgettable tale of love that comes at the ultimate price. How true, said the sour kangaroo. Oh my God. This was such a good book. Yeah. And I gotta say, like, this has some trigger warnings for relationship abuse and domestic abuse and homeless and childhood homelessness. So just a heads up there with that. And slight spoiler in reading the back of the second book, but not excuse me. That was a weird little tickle I just had. But slight little spoiler here, but don't read too much into it. Just read the first book and you'll understand completely. Yeah. So now, It Starts With Us. So this is what it says right at the very top. Before it ends with us, it started with Atlas. And you've learned to love Atlas so much in both of these books. It's just like a little part of my heart is awesome. It's so good. So, Lily and Ryle have just settled into a civil co-parenting rhythm with their daughter, Emerson, when Lily suddenly runs into Atlas nearly 2 years after they last spoke. Elated that the timing finally seems to be right to give what they have together a real chance, Atlas asks Lily on a date. But Lily's excitement is almost immediately replaced by dread and anxiety when Lily remembers that Ryle, though no longer her husband, is still very much part of her life. And though Ryle would dislike Lily dating anyone but him, Atlas Corrigan is the one man he absolutely will not stand having in his ex-wife and daughter's lives. Told from the perspectives of Lily and Atlas, It Starts With Us gives readers a deeper look into Atlas's past as he and Lily reconnect and rekindle the love they shared as teenagers, while navigating a volatile ex-husband who believes Atlas to be one of the reasons his marriage with Lily ended. It Starts With Us picks up right where the epilogue for the glorious and touching USA Today, It Ends With Us left off, giving readers the exhilarating sequel to Colleen's best-selling phenomenon they have been begging for. And I think if I read correctly somewhere, Colleen Hoover was not planning on writing this book.
Yeah, it was TikTok.
Okay, that's what I thought. I remember seeing it somewhere, or you told me, or something about that. But she was not planning on writing the sequel with Atlas in it. But everyone was just like, no, we need to know how this story ends. This is not over yet. Now I could probably say this is a solid wrap-up to the whole story. And, it's such a good ending.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I love it so much. Yeah. But yeah, so definitely worth the hype. And honestly, I cannot wait to watch the movie. Yeah. And be gloriously pissed off and love it at the same time.
Yeah. And that is coming out August 9th of this year, so 2024.
So excited.
So, yeah. Do you have any requests for the true crime, or is it free for all for me?
Maybe, since we're doing these, it can be a domestic abuse story.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Cool. All right. Next month, Colleen Hoover, double feature.
It Ends With Us. It Starts With Us.
I'm excited.
So good.
Cool. Until next time.
Toodles.